You are not a warrior, not a scholar, not even a merchant sailing the dark waters of the Bosphorus. You are a spoon, not a golden one, not even particularly fine. You are made of silver, dull, quiet, uneventful. Born in the city they once called Constantinople. Sometime between the reign of Justinian and the first great fire, you have no voice, no eyes, no thoughts, but still you remember. The heat of the forge that first shaped you, the mold filled with cooling metal, the steady tap of a craftsman's hammer nudging you gently into form. Your bowl is shallow, your handle unadorned. No saints, no emperors, no ivory inlay. You are not art, you are utility. A spoon meant for eating barley broth and little else. Your first home is modest, a villa of stone just south of the Forum of Constantine. You rest in a wooden drawer beside a worn knife and a chipped clay cup. Morning comes. A servant lifts you. Steam rises from a pot of lentils. Bread bakes in an oven of brick. You are dipped, scooped, lifted. You pass silently from hand to bowl to mouth. Again and again and again. You do not shine, but you endure. No one names you. No one praises you. But you are always there. Even as the years begin to pass like leaves in a stream, you are a spoon. You do not change. And tonight, as the city sleeps beyond your memory, you begin to remember your long, long life. Let us begin from the beginning. Part 1. The kitchen years. The year is unclear. It might be 530 or 540 or somewhere in between. You do not know because you are a spoon, and spoons do not keep calendars. You were born in Constantinople, not in a palace, not in a grand hall, but in a workshop that smelled of sweat, smoke, and molten metal, near the edge of the Mies Road, where the footsteps of thousands wore grooves into stone, where the wheels of carts creaked, and vendors called out in half a dozen tongues. You were born not from the earth, but from old coins and broken bracelets, melted down and poured into a simple mold. There was no ceremony, only heat and time and the quiet rhythm of shaping. Your bowl was shallow, deliberately so, meant for light meals, soft food, soups, stews. Your handle was narrow, undecorated, slightly curved, made to rest easily in a calloused hand. You were not made to impress. You were made to serve. And so you did. You were carried from the forge, wrapped in rough cloth, placed among other tools and utensils. A copper ladle, a worn pan, a small silver fork whose tines were too close together. From there, you traveled across the cobbled streets, past pillars still bearing the marks of long-dead emperors, under the shadow of churches, aqueducts, and high stone walls. And then you arrived at your first home. It was not grand, but neither was it poor. A merchant's villa, 2 floors with a courtyard open to the sky. Fig trees grew near the outer wall. A marble basin caught rainwater when it fell. Cats lounged in the sun, and a servant, barefoot, with a scarf tied around her head, washed linen in a stone basin with olive soap. The kitchen was at the back, always warm, always busy. It was there you were placed, not on a pedestal, but in a drawer, a wooden drawer, lined with scraps of cloth, frayed linen, soft from years of washing. And there you stayed, at first, waiting, listening. The kitchen had its own music, the crackle of fire, the bubbling of pots, the chop of knives, the murmur of prayers spoken under breath. In the mornings, there was the sound of grinding grain, barley mostly, sometimes millet, sometimes emmer if it had been a good year. There was bread, flat and hard, baked in a domed clay oven. There was cheese, white and crumbly, wrapped in vine leaves. There were jars of olives, green, black, wrinkled with salt, and diluted with water, vinegar infused with herbs, and above it all, the steady heat of the hearth. The woman who ran the kitchen was old, not ancient, but the kind of old that carried with it knowledge no scroll had ever recorded. She didn't speak to you, of course not, but she knew your weight, your balance, the curve of your bowl. She knew how much lentil soup you could carry, how easily you scrape the inside of a shallow dish, how warm your handle became if left too near the fire. She had seen utensils come and go, knives dulled, ladles split, plates cracked in two, but you were silver, and silver endures. You were used for everything. Morning porridge, barley soaked overnight and boiled with goat's milk, a pinch of salt, a drizzle of honey, if it could be spared. At midday, a soup, perhaps made from chickpeas or broad beans crushed and seasoned with cumin and vinegar. In the evenings, stews thickened with bread, or meat broths, flavored with dried herbs from the rooftop garden. You stirred it all, tasted it all, though you never truly tasted. Not the way a tongue does. Still, there was something in the repetition, something sacred in the ritual of lifting and carrying, of dipping and scraping. A small miracle of movement, over and over, day after day. The drawer was your resting place. You came to know its creaks, its scent, wood, cloth, and time. When the cook pulled it open, the sound was soft, but steady, like a whisper of wind through dry leaves. There was a rhythm to the days, one not marked by sun alone, but by meals. The first meal, the second meal, the evening meal, and always the drawer, the fire, the spoon. You did not rust, you did not chip. You were cleaned each night with wine-soaked cloth, then wrapped and returned. Not loved, but trusted. There were feast days, too, special days, marked by songs and candlelight, days when lamb was stewed with apricots and honeyed nuts were served in little clay bowls. You were polished on those days, rubbed until your silver caught the firelight, not glowing like gold, but soft, quiet, and still. You were not admired. No one lifted you up and marveled at your craftsmanship. But they used you, which, to a spoon, is enough. Time passed differently for you, not in years, but in repetitions. 100,000 dips into a pot, 1,000 cleanings, countless returns to the drawer. A child was born in the house. You watched from the table as he grew, from the milk he spilled as a toddler to the stews he stirred as a youth. He used you with a clumsy hand at first, then with practiced ease. He dropped you once, You remember the sound, a hollow clink on the stone floor. You were not hurt. You do not bruise. He whispered something when he picked you up. An apology, maybe. You'll never know. But the next time he used you, he held you more gently. Years passed. You served the boy, then the boy's father, then guests. You were taken to the triclinium, the formal dining room. There, men reclined on cushions and debated theology and trade. They dipped bread into sauces you helped stir. They spoke of taxes, of borders, of churches, of Persian raids. None of it mattered to you. You were a spoon, and the sauce was warm. That was enough. Seasons shifted. Fig trees blossomed, then shed. Pigeons nested, then flew. The fountain cracked, then was repaired. And always the kitchen remained, its fire, its rhythm. You became smooth with use. The sharp edges of your form dulled, the inside of your bowl worn to a soft patina. You bore the scratches of use, not damage, but history. There were times when the house was empty, when sickness swept through the city and only the servants remained. They boiled water. They whispered prayers. They used you sparingly. You remember one winter when the cook wept. No reason was given. She wiped her eyes with the same cloth she used to dry you. You did not ask why. Spoons do not question. But still, you remember. Because memory, for a spoon, is just the echo of motion, the lingering of warmth. There were quiet years. There were loud years. There were years when the city buzzed with pilgrims and spices arrived from Alexandria. Cinnamon, cloves, peppercorns in tight cloth sacks. You stirred them all. The aromas clung to you, sharp and earthy, bitter and sweet. You were flavored by history, even if no one noticed. Sometimes you were dropped in boiling broth, sometimes soaked overnight in wine, sometimes left by accident in a clay jar, only to be rediscovered the next day. But never forgotten, not truly. You were always found, always used, always returned to the drawer. That was your place, and you were content. If spoons can be content. You saw no battles. You never touched a sword. But you endured. You passed through lives, through generations. Each hand that held you, strong, weak, old, young, left some trace upon your handle. You are not beautiful. You are not rare. But you are known. In the most ordinary way, through repetition, through usefulness. You outlasted cooks. You outlasted bread ovens. You outlasted cats and trees and kitchen doors. You are not remembered in the records, not etched into mosaic, not carved into stone. But you are part of it all. The quiet part, the constant. And so the kitchen years pass. 17 years, 23, 40. It does not matter. Because you remain, you serve, you wait, you endure. Not with pride, not with purpose, but with patience. The patience of silver, the patience of fire, the patience of time. The drawer creaks. A hand lifts you once more. The stew is warm. The bowl is full. And you are ready, as always. Part 2. The Time of Change. You are awakened not by light, but by movement, not a soft, familiar hand, not the drawer creaking in its usual way, but a different sound, the scrape of wood being lifted, a shuffle of steps on stone, a new rhythm, an unfamiliar breath. You are wrapped in cloth, not the old linen you knew, but something rougher, hemp, tied with twine, smelling faintly of dust, vinegar, and something like leather. You do not resist. You cannot. You are a spoon. But inside your stillness, there is a shift. You are being moved. And movement, for a spoon, is always a kind of rebirth. The journey is not long, or perhaps it is. Time is hard to measure when wrapped in darkness. You are jostled, rocked with the rhythm of a donkey cart, or perhaps the sway of arms. There is no sound but distant voices, no kitchen, no fire, only the steady march of change. When you are unwrapped, the light is different. Not the warm, orange glow of fire in a hearth, but something colder. Dim daylight, filtered through shutters that never quite close. You are in a new kitchen, smaller, tighter, lower ceiling, stone floor, but cracked. The smell is sharper. Onions, brine, sweat. This is not the house you knew. The drawer is different, unlined, rough. You rattle against other tools you do not recognize. A long iron poker, a bent ladle, a wooden spoon stained deep with pomegranate juice. The hands here are faster, less careful, more hurried. A younger cook, maybe two. They speak in bursts. Their Greek is not smooth. It is clipped. Their words come from further east. Cappadocia, perhaps, or Cilicia. You understand none of it, but you feel the pace. There is no time to soak in wine, no soft cloth polishing your silver. You are dunked in water, wiped on an apron, and used. Rough hands stir with you, slam you against the pot's edge, clatter you into bowls. But still, you serve, you endure. The food is different here. Less meat, more lentils, more roots, scraped and boiled, turnips, onions, leeks. Vinegar is used freely. So is salt. And every now and then, a twist of sumac or coriander. You learn the flavors, not by taste, but by touch. Each grain of salt, each drop of oil, each streak of paste across your bowl. You feel them all. There is a child here. She watches the kitchen always, silent, barefoot, wrapped in a wool cloak too large for her shoulders. You are used to feed her, first by others, later by herself. Her hand is small, unsteady. She drops you twice. You do not mind. You do not bruise. Years pass. She grows. Her grip tightens. She stirs. She tastes. She learns. She keeps you in a better place now. Not the drawer, but a shelf. Wrapped in linen again. Cleaned more gently. One night, she polishes you, carefully, quietly. You catch the light of a single flame. You do not shine, but you do not dull. She smiles. You are not hers, but she treats you as though you are. The seasons here are harsher. Winters press through the walls like fingers made of ice, and summers boil the kitchen even before dawn. There are lean months. You stir thin soup made from scraps, leaves, stale bread, bones boiled twice. But you also see celebration, feast days, when bread is sweetened, when honey appears, when raisins are added to rice and cardamom floats in milk. The girl, now a woman, cooks for others, neighbors, merchants, a soldier once who did not smile. You are used in all these meals, quiet, dependable. You outlast the soldier. The neighbors move away. The kitchen changes hands again. But the girl, now the cook, keeps you, even when the ceiling leaks, even when the floor sinks, even when the jars are fewer. She keeps you. You are placed in a small satchel. A journey begins, longer this time, across rough roads, through forests, by boat. The splash of water, the salt air. You are moved with caution. You are not wrapped in cloth now, but in a linen pouch tied to the woman's hip. She cooks for others, wherever she goes, a traveling cook, a servant. You become a constant in her world. She does not speak to you, but her hands know you better than language. In each new hearth, she finds her rhythm. In each pot, she tastes with you, pours with you, measures with you. You serve travelers, soldiers, pilgrims. You hear fragments of stories in strange dialects. You smell food from lands far beyond the old courtyard you once knew. Once, a man from the south uses you to scoop a stew thick with sesame and tamarind. Another time, a priest dips you into a bowl of porridge and murmurs a blessing you cannot understand. Still, you remain the same. You do not age like hands do. You do not tire. You are only scratched, only worn, only present. In one town, you are mistaken for a relic. A merchant, noting your dull glow and old weight, asks to buy you. The cook refuses. She wraps you more tightly. From that day on, she keeps you hidden when she travels. You are used only in private meals, only in quiet kitchens. You feel her getting older. Her hands ache. They move slower. Her grip slips sometimes. But she still stirs, still tastes, still cooks. You have seen her grow, from child to youth, from youth to woman, from woman to something quieter, not quite old, but approaching stillness. You are there the night she lights no fire, the night she does not eat. You rest beside her, wrapped in linen, unused. The next morning, others come. She is gone. You do not know where, but you are taken. Again. This time, the hands are unfamiliar. Men, sorting through her things. They find you. They hold you to the light. They mutter. They shrug. You are placed in a sack, jumbled with cups, cloth, bits of broken jewelry. You are sold, not as a tool, not as a relic, as silver, weighed, measured, exchanged, not for love, not for use, but for coin. You are brought to a shop, not a kitchen. A silversmith's workshop. Dark, cluttered, full of broken things, bent things, forgotten things. A place of endings. You are placed in a wooden box. Left for days, weeks, months. Time slips. No heat, no food, no motion, just stillness and dust. You are not used, not needed, not remembered, but you do not rust. You do not decay. You wait, because waiting is what spoons do best. Then one day, you are chosen again, not by a cook, but by a boy, young, barely more than a child, apprentice perhaps. He takes you, brushes you clean, wraps you in cloth. You are given as a gift, not because you are beautiful, but because you are old. He gives you to a man, a scholar, a scribe, someone who smells of ink and candle wax. The man studies you, turns you over. He does not stir stew with you, not yet. He sets you on a shelf, next to scrolls and wax tablets. You are no longer in a kitchen. You are in a study. The sounds are different. Quills scratching, pages turning, the crackle of papyrus, the sigh of someone reading late into the night. You are unused. You are watched. Sometimes lifted, weighed in the hand, then placed back. The man writes something about you. A note, in Greek, modest spoon, silver, early 6th century, smooth from use, common form. You do not know what the words mean, but you are not melted. You are not discarded. You are considered. This is a different kind of usefulness, a different kind of life, one without fire, without broth, without drawers, just silence and thought and waiting. You are moved again. Once, twice, many times, always with care. You are shown to others, scholars, students, collectors, sometimes admired, sometimes ignored, but always intact, always present. You pass into cabinets, shelves, display cases. Centuries pass, empires fall, languages fade. You are no longer used, no longer stirred, but you are still whole, still silver, still spoon. You rest now in a room filled with other forgotten tools. A belt buckle, a brooch, a knife without a handle. You are behind glass, no longer touched, but still seen, still remembered by some. Occasionally, a child looks at you, asks, "Did people really eat with that?" And the parent says yes, and moves on. But the child looks longer, and you shine, just faintly, in the museum light. And though you do not stir anymore, though no broth clings to your bowl, you still hold the memory of meals, of kitchens, of drawers, of hands, of fire. And you rest, not in use, but in peace, because you were once part of it all. And that, for a spoon, is enough. Part 3. Siege and Stillness. You rest quietly now, nestled deep inside the darkened kitchen drawer, wrapped gently in the soft linen cloth that has long been your refuge. Outside, the world presses on with a heavy weight, but here, in this small space, you are still. You are calm. The kitchen around you is muted, shadows stretching long across the cold stone floor. The faint glow of a dying fire flickers somewhere beyond the walls. You can sense it. Warmth, but distant, fragile. The air is thick with the scent of smoke and damp stone. You breathe it in quietly, absorbing the silence that wraps around you like a slow, steady pulse. Outside, the city holds its breath. The walls stand tall and silent, weathered from centuries of storms and battles. They have seen much, yet this time feels different. A deep, quiet tension, like the moment just before the sky cracks open. You feel the vibrations beneath you, the soft footsteps of wary guards, the distant rumble of siege engines, slow and relentless, the low murmur of whispered prayers and hushed voices. Time here has folded in on itself. Days seem to stretch endlessly, like the slow drip of water into a still pool. The sounds of daily life have faded away. No more the laughter of children chasing each other through sunlit courtyards. No more the clinking of plates and joyful chatter in the great halls. Only the heavy stillness of waiting. You are still. You are quiet. You are waiting. You remember brighter days. Days when you were lifted with care, dipped into thick stews, bubbling with herbs and spices, carrying warmth and comfort to the hungry mouths gathered around heavy wooden tables. Now, your silver bowl is used more sparingly, scraping the bottom of a pot containing thin gruel, diluted with water, barely enough to fill empty stomachs. Your handle is touched less often. The hands that once moved you swiftly and confidently now tremble with weariness. You listen closely. You hear the soft sob of a child somewhere beyond the thick walls, a sound full of hunger and longing. You hear the quiet cough of an old man resting near the fire, his breath shallow. You hear the whispered prayers, carried softly on the stale air. Within this small space, you are part of the rhythm of survival. A slow, fragile dance. The food is cold now, barely warmed by the fading embers. You are dipped, lifted, pressed carefully against lips that seek not just nourishment, but a fleeting sense of normalcy. You carry not only food, but hope. Hope that this meal will sustain, that it will keep spirits alive. The fire crackles low, casting long shadows that flicker like ghosts against the rough stone walls. Outside, the sounds of siege grow nearer. The enemy presses against the city's defenses with a steady, grinding force. Siege towers creak as they roll forward. Arrows whistle through the air, striking shields and stone alike. But within this kitchen, there is stillness. You are a silent witness to the endurance of a city and its people. You remain poised in your place, the cool metal of your surface cold against the rough wood of the drawer. You feel the weight of time, stretching slow and heavy. Hours blend into days, days into weeks. You are forgotten, left alone in the dark, but always ready, always waiting. The siege is long. The hunger is deep. The silence is profound. Yet beneath the stillness, a quiet strength grows, a strength woven of resilience and patience. You are part of that strength. You are the spoon. You are the quiet keeper of moments, the bearer of stillness, and in this waiting, in this silence, you hold on. The hours stretch on, like soft shadows, creeping across the stone floor. The kitchen remains cloaked in darkness, save for the faint glow from the dying embers in the hearth. The fire is almost spent, its warmth a gentle pulse that barely reaches your silver surface. Outside, the city holds fast. The siege continues, an unyielding presence pressing against every wall and gate. You can almost feel the tension vibrating through the stones, carried in the steady march of footsteps and the muffled thuds of siege engines. Within this quiet sanctuary, you rest, your edges worn smooth by years of use, yet still unbroken, still strong. The hands that once eagerly grasped you now move slowly, deliberately. They tremble slightly as they reach out, careful not to jostle you too harshly. The cook's face is drawn and pale, eyes heavy with exhaustion, yet filled with an unspoken determination. You are lifted carefully, dipped into a bowl filled with thin, watery broth. The scent is faint but familiar. Smoke, a hint of herbs, the faintest trace of salt. You carry the precious liquid with grace, a small vessel of hope in these hard times. Each meal is a ritual, a moment of reprieve, a whisper of comfort amid the harshness. You feel the soft lips press against your bowl, the quick swallow, the subtle sigh that follows. It is not just food you carry, but reassurance, a gentle reminder that life continues, even in darkness. The kitchen air is heavy with quiet sounds, the scraping of wooden spoons against clay pots, the faint creak of floorboards, the soft murmur of voices speaking in hushed tones. They speak of survival, of holding on, of what may come next. You listen, absorbing every subtle sound. There is a rhythm here, slow and steady, like the ebb and flow of a distant tide, a rhythm of endurance. Outside, the siege engines pause briefly, their groans echoing faintly through the walls. The enemy tests the city's defenses again and again, a relentless wave seeking a breach, but the city stands firm. Inside, the people cling to the fragile threads of hope woven through the long days. You rest again, nestled in the darkness, wrapped once more in your linen cloth. You feel the coolness of the wood against your handle, the familiar embrace that soothes your tired form. Time folds over itself, soft and endless. You remember the hands that once held you in lighter days, lifting you high to serve rich stews and honeyed wine at grand feasts. Now, those hands are marked by hunger and hardship, but their care remains. You are witness to their resilience. You are part of their quiet strength. The city breathes around you, heavy, slow, determined. The walls hold, the fire flickers, and you wait. Stillness wraps the world in a gentle embrace. And you, the silent spoon, remain. The quiet lingers, as it always does now. You lie nestled in soft linen, cradled in the same worn drawer where countless hours have passed. Shadows gather around you like thick velvet, gentle and still, undisturbed by the noise of the outside world. The air in the kitchen is cool, tinged with the scent of soot, baked stone, and a sweetness long since faded. Perhaps a trace of cinnamon, perhaps only memory. Beyond these walls, the siege continues. a low hum, distant but constant, like the far-off groaning of thunder held just beneath the horizon. You do not see it, but you feel it, a subtle pressure in the stones, in the air, in the rhythm of those who move around you. The thudding of feet on cobblestones, the sharp breath of wind through broken shutters, the soft thump of engines pressing against the city's bones, all of it ripples through the walls, faint and far away. The sounds are muffled now, as if even they have grown tired. But within this room, a different stillness reigns, heavier, closer. You are lifted from your rest, slowly, reverently. Fingers, trembling yet careful, wrap around your stem. The hands that hold you have grown thinner, paler, veined like dried leaves. The cook, once steady and brisk, now moves with the quiet slowness of someone who understands the weight of each motion. You are dipped into a bowl of broth, thin, nearly clear. The steam barely rises, and what does carries the faint scent of boiled roots and wild herbs. Meager fare, but something warm nonetheless. You carry the liquid carefully, your shallow bowl filled with more than just nourishment. It is comfort, memory, the echo of fullness. Lips meet your rim, cracked and dry. The broth disappears in a single swallow, followed by a soft exhale. Not satisfaction, only survival. And yet, it is something. Each spoonful you lift is a gesture of hope. The fire has burned low, only a few orange coals glowing faintly beneath blackened wood. Their light is soft and flickering, casting shadows like whispering ghosts along the stone walls. There is no urgency in the room, only endurance. The kitchen has become a sacred space of waiting. You hear faint sounds, the scrape of a spoon against clay, the creak of ancient timber beneath tired feet, the breathless murmur of a prayer whispered not to be heard. The words themselves blur, but the tone is unmistakable. Neither despair nor pleading, but something quieter still. Acceptance. Time has slowed, or perhaps stopped. Days and nights blur into one another, stitched together by shared silence and ritual. You rest again in the drawer, the linen wrapping now slightly damp from steam, your surface still faintly warm. The wood beneath you has warped slightly with age, but it cradles you just the same as ever. The siege presses against the city like an endless tide, and yet the walls hold. They are old stones, battered and scarred, but they remember how to endure, just as you do. You have served in times of laughter and feasts, in years of abundance and music and flame-roasted meats. Now, you serve in hunger, in silence, in scarcity. And still, your purpose remains. You are the bearer of what little remains, the silent witness to each act of quiet survival. The spoon that remembers both plenty and privation and changes for neither. You lie still once more, your edges worn smooth with use, your bowl empty, but your presence full. The kitchen exhales around you. The city dreams behind its walls. And you, cradled in linen and shadow, simply are. You endure. The hour deepens. Outside, the city groans under the weight of waiting. Inside, the kitchen holds its breath. You lie still, nestled in linen, your silver body faintly cool to the touch, though your bowl has long since been emptied of its broth. The warmth of use lingers, like a memory not yet lost. The drawer closes with a creak, its wooden grain brushing your edge in a sighing gesture. Tired, but not broken. Stone walls press inward with calm patience. They do not fear the siege. They have known centuries of fire, flood, birth, and silence. You understand them now in your stillness. In this space, time stretches. There is no urgency, no clocks, no voices raised. Only quiet breath, slow footsteps, and hands that work without haste. The cook, once so swift, sits still now. Her hands, skilled from decades at the hearth, rest quietly in her lap. Her gaze is far away, not lost, but thoughtful. There are few visitors now, no servants, no laughter, only those who come for broth. Always broth. It is made from scraps, roots, and bones. Whatever can be boiled down into warmth. You are her tool, her companion, familiar, trusted. When you are lifted, it is with care. The motion is muscle deep. Her fingers find your handle as if no time has passed. You dip into the pot, scoop the broth, offer it to a quiet guest seated by the hearth, a young man, clothes worn thin, face drawn. You've seen this gaze before, in soldiers, in servants, in monks who've fasted too long. The cook raises you. He sips, swallows, breathes. A small nod. She nods back. No words. None needed. You return to the pot, then to his lips, again and again. A quiet ritual, ordinary, sacred. The broth is nearly gone. You scrape gently, collecting the last drops. Outside, the air is cold. You remember how the hearth dims and condensation settles across your surface. The cold here is not harsh, just slow, patient. Inside, an ember flares, then fades. The cook returns you to the drawer. You settle in, damp, warm. The linen wraps around you. The curtain closes. Stillness. And memory. You drift beyond the kitchen. You recall not feasts, but quiet meals. A boy stealing soup. A widow humming to no one. A soldier eating with shaking hands. Forgotten by history. But not by you. You are not history. You are what history forgets. Yet you matter. The drawer opens again. A child's hand lifts you. Thin fingers. Bare feet. They scrape what little is left. They sip, quietly. The cook does not stop them. She watches, allows it. The child finishes, returns you. You're cool now. Your job is done for the moment. The fire sighs. The siege waits, hunger waits, time waits, and you remain. Forged in flame, once gleaming, admired, now dulled, scratched, comfort worn, and still chosen. You are not luxury, you are need. A lullaby floats from a nearby room. Soft, faint, familiar. Once, you stirred milk to that tune. Now, you rest inside it. The drawer closes. The kitchen sleeps. The city holds on. And you, unseen, are there to witness it all. Part 4. Rediscovery. Beneath the dust. The years are not counted in this drawer. They pass like the wind across a meadow. Quiet, unmeasured, forgotten. There is no candle to mark the hours. No rooster's cry, no bells tolling vespers. Only stillness, deep, settled, complete. Dust gathers like soft cloth across the surfaces. It coats the hearthstones. It lines the jars that once brimmed with flour and lentils. It fills the corners, the cracks in iron tools, the empty shelves that once held steaming bowls. You lie motionless. For how long, you cannot say. The drawer has not opened. The cook, whose hands once knew your shape as surely as breath, has long since vanished. Even the fire has gone cold. No smoke, no heat, only the memory of warmth. Above you, the old timbers groan occasionally, like dreams muttered in sleep. Stone forgets. Wood fades. But you remember. You remember the clang of ladles, the smell of barley porridge at dawn, the laughter of a child sneaking figs from a plate. The voice of a woman humming a song she didn't know was sacred. These are etched into your metal like breath on glass, faint, invisible, but always there. You rest in silence, surrounded by old companions, a knife dulled to uselessness, a ladle with a weary bend, a cracked spatula, a pestle smoothed by time. None of you speak, but all of you dream. Dreaming is what remains when purpose fades. Yet purpose is strange. It doesn't die, it waits. So you wait, not with longing, not with hope, simply with presence. That is your way. You endure. Then, a sound, faint, a disturbance, a tremor in the still air. Dust shifting. Not wind, not memory. Something alive. A step. Another. Closer. The silence sharpens. A creak. The drawer. Opening. Light. Not firelight, not candle glow. Daylight. You feel it before you see it. It brushes across your dulled surface. Warm, gold, gentle. A hand reaches in. Not the cook's. You'd know her touch. This one is young, careful, slow. Fingers that pause, then curl around your handle. Gently. You are lifted. The air around you moves. Cool. Different. You are tilted, examined. Above you, a face. Wide eyes. Brows drawn in quiet awe. Look, a voice says. Another face appears, then a third. You are surrounded, not by pots and smoke and laughter, but by stillness, wonder, discovery. It's old, someone says. Silver? A thumb traces your edge. You feel seen, not for your beauty, but for your story. Someone notices the tiny vine carved near your stem. You had forgotten it was there. This must have come from the palace kitchens, a voice murmurs. They weigh you in their palm. They do not know your name, or the smell of the first stew you carried, or the fear during the siege. But they are curious, and curiosity is how stories wake again. You are wrapped, not in kitchen linen, but in soft, white cloth. It smells faintly of lavender and oil. Not a burial shroud, but a cradle. You are placed in a wooden box, with brass hinges, gently, respectfully. Not as an object, as a discovery. You are carried through halls that echo differently. No shouted orders, no clattering plates, just low voices, quiet reverence. The air changes, brighter. There is marble beneath you now. You are placed on a table. Beside you, someone writes on a small card. You do not understand the letters, but you understand the silence, the attention. You are no longer just a spoon. You are a Byzantine spoon. That is what they will call you now. But you were more. You were Byzantium. Its kitchens, its silence, its hunger, its heartbeat. You held the breath of an empire in your bowl. Now, someone sees you. Even if they do not know the full story, they know you matter. You are placed beneath a glass case. The light above you hums. Children pass, eyes wide. A student points. Someone takes a photo. You do not understand the click, but you understand the pause, the gaze. They are listening, even in silence, even in stillness. You are still, but you are no longer alone. Fasten light. The world is light now. Not firelight, not candlelight. A steady glow, soft and even, rests above you. It filters through crystal clear glass, washing your worn silver in warmth that neither flickers nor fades. This light has no scent, no smoke. It does not dance. It simply is. So you lie beneath glass, not buried, not forgotten, displayed, framed in silence. Each morning, a cloth passes over your case. Slow, careful. Hands in white gloves polish the glass with reverence, not the warm, flour-dusted touch of the cook you once knew, but the quiet touch of someone preserving memory. Outside your case, life flows softly. Footsteps tap gently on marble floors. Shoes are cushioned now. There is no rush. Visitors move not with urgency, but with curiosity. They come to look, to wonder, to remember something they never lived. Children arrive first. Their voices ring lightly in the air, questions tumbling from lips too young for history's weight. What is it? It's a spoon. Looks old. Do you think they had pudding back then? They laugh, press noses close to the glass, move on. Behind them, adults, teachers, guides with calm voices and lanyards. They read the small plaque beside you. Byzantine spoon, 10th century, silver alloy, possibly from Constantinople. Palace kitchen use. They get the facts right, mostly, but facts are not memory. They do not speak of barley stirred at dawn, of stews thickened with sorrow, of siege or silence or the sound of laughter echoing off cool stone. The card says what you are, but not what you were. Still, some pause longer. An old man leans on a cane. He does not speak, just stares. His eyes are not wide with wonder, but narrow with knowing. Not your story exactly, but something close. He nods once. Then he leaves as quietly as he came. A group of students stands near next. One sketches you, another types notes. Someone calls you humble. Someone else says anonymous. They mean no harm. It is the modern way, naming the forgotten. But you were never anonymous. You were known. In hands, in mouths, in memory. You were never signed, but you were shared. You served, and in that service, you became part of life itself. One young woman stays. She wears a scarf the color of plums, opens a notebook, writes not with quick facts, but slowly with care. She does not just see a spoon. She sees the kitchen, the drawer, the siege, the silence. She sees the child who licked barley from your curve, the cook who stirred broth by moonlight. She sees everything no label could hold because she imagines. And imagination is how stories live again. Her lips move as she rereads her lines. You cannot hear the words, but you feel them somehow. A warmth returns to your metal. A weight, soft and sacred, settles back into your bowl. You are remembered. She finishes, smiles faintly, closes her notebook, leaves. But something stays. Some part of you, passed on, alive again, inside her pages. The museum quiets, light softens, visitors drift away. The hum of day fades into stillness. Shadows stretch across polished marble. You remain, not touched, but seen, not used, but known, no longer forgotten. And that, you've learned, is enough. The echoing future. Night comes quietly to this new world. No flickering lanterns, no rising wood smoke, no distant hum of a city closing its eyes. This darkness is clean, electric even. It moves through the museum like silk. No creaking beams, no huddled firelight. Just glass, tile, silence. But still, it is night. And night has always been your most familiar companion. In your first life, it meant the end of the day. The kitchen quieted, the pot stacked, the cook wiping her brow and whispering thanks to barley and salt. The embers in the hearth sighed into sleep. Footsteps softened, shadows lengthened. It was the time when the silence wrapped itself around the palace. It was night when the siege began, and night when it ended. Night, too, when the drawer finally closed on you, a long, dark sleep of centuries. Now, you find yourself in another kind of stillness, another kind of night. Here, the quiet breathes. Electronics hum softly, cooling fans, unseen circuits, silent sensors. No wind, no fire. Just a low, steady murmur of machines watching over everything. The lights dim, casting you in a faint blue glow. Not to display you, to preserve you. There's a difference, and it matters. You are no longer exposed to hunger or heat or time. You are no longer forgotten in a sealed drawer. You are still, safe. And something gentle is blooming in this silence, a kind of recognition. You do not know the names of the people who pass by your case, but their eyes pause, their breath catches, their thoughts linger, and in that attention, something awakens. You begin to feel continuity, not of use, but of meaning. Meaning is not in metal or polish, not in labels or guesses. It is found in the act of remembering, in the choice to look, to wonder. You were never just silver, never just an artifact. You were born not when you were made, but when you were used. When a tired hand dipped you into a pot. When a child's lips met your bowl. When a cook stirred broth during a siege, hoping it might be enough. That was your beginning. Not your forging, but your service. And now, again, your meaning is returning, quietly, carefully. A guard passes by in the night, his steps soft, his flashlight pointed downward. He hums, low and tuneless, something half forgotten. It reminds you of kitchen songs, those hummed during long nights, when the barley stirred gently and hope was measured in spoonfuls. He pauses at your case. He does not read the plaque. He does not analyze. He does not judge. He just stands there. A silent moment shared. No demands, no questions, only presence. That is enough, because rediscovery is not about spectacle. It is about intimacy. It is about someone, anyone, choosing to witness what was nearly lost. And now, the world shifts again. Softly. A door unlatches. The ceiling glows faintly with the approach of morning. Someone arrives, balancing coffee, keys, a yawn. Soon the lights will rise, visitors will return. More eyes, more questions, more wondering souls. And you will remain, not waiting, not hidden, but ready. You are no longer a forgotten thing in a forgotten drawer. You are a story, an echo, a thread in a tapestry still being woven. You exist now in the minds of strangers, in the notebook of the woman with the plum-colored scarf, in the sketches of students, in the quiet song of the night guard, in the quiet hum of lights not meant to dazzle, but to remember. You have endured fire, siege, silence, oblivion, and now this, light, recognition, presence. You rest beneath glass, not with purpose lost, but with purpose remembered. And as the sun edges gently into the marble halls, you wait, still and shining, not to be wielded, but to be seen. And perhaps that is the noblest purpose of all. Part 6. The Ottoman Years. The monastery has grown quieter now. Time, once a gentle stream, has shifted its course. The air that surrounds you feels different, cooler, heavier, threaded with the strange texture of change. Outside the thick stone walls, the world trembles with quiet transformation. Empires have risen and fallen like waves breaking upon ancient shores, and now a new tide has come to wash the city in its rhythm. You, a simple silver spoon, have remained still for so long. You do not speak, yet you feel. You feel the quiet reverberation of history moving, shifting, breathing. The hands that lift you now carry stories written in a different tongue. The rituals performed are different, not better, not worse, just changed. The familiar cadence of Byzantine chants has given way to new prayers, new melodies, new hopes. The banners that flutter above the city are no longer imperial purple. They carry the green and red of another world, and the voices echoing in the streets speak with accents not of your birth. Constantinople, once cradled in the arms of Byzantium, now beats to the heart of the Ottoman Empire. And you, once a humble servant in the kitchens of emperors, rest in the quiet chambers of a man who treasures what once was, even as he lives fully in what now is. Your silver surface, tarnished in places, but still reflecting light in gentle curved lines, captures faces that have never seen the mosaics of Hagia Sophia in her golden splendor, nor the great pageantry of a Byzantine feast. These new faces do not wear silk in the old ways, do not carry the sign of the cross pressed into their brow, yet they are thoughtful, reverent. They treat you not as a trinket, not as a tool, but as a relic, an echo from a world slipping further into legend with each passing year. You live now in a modest home, no longer in gilded palaces or smoky kitchens bustling with servants, but in a quiet room filled with fabrics and books, with the scent of old paper and rose water in the air. The man who owns this place, an Ottoman official of soft-spoken grace, keeps you wrapped in cloth. He rarely speaks of you, but his hands are careful when he touches you. There is tenderness in the way he carries you, fingers tracing the faded etchings on your handle, eyes lingering on your curved bowl, as if trying to read the stories hidden in your silver grain. You feel the passage of time here in layers. You rest among scrolls and stitched linens, among inkpots and bound volumes, beside porcelain cups and little jars of crushed pigment. Some days, light slants through the lattice windows just right, and you catch a glimmer of the city beyond. Streets winding like rivers, market carts creaking beneath baskets of lemons and figs, the cry of merchants ringing out between the calls to prayer. You know the rhythm now. Dawn brings with it the sound of sweeping brooms and the crackle of firewood catching flame. The smell of cardamom coffee brews in brass pots over small flames, its bitterness rich and comforting. Simit, the ringed bread dotted with sesame, lies warm on wooden trays. And in the gentle hours before the heat rises, the city hums its slow awakening song. From your shelf, you hear it all. Footsteps pattering on stone, bells ringing, children's laughter rising like bird song through the open windows, conversations held in hushed tones over tea, the creak of a quill scratching letters onto parchment, sometimes the rustle of silk robes. Other times, the bare softness of someone settling into a cushion to read. The man who keeps you often gathers with friends, scholars and poets, their voices low and steady, layered with thought. They sit cross-legged beneath oil lamps, their conversation drifting between the scrolls and textiles. Through the scent of mint and burning cedar, they speak of memory, of history, of the soul of a city that has changed its name, its rulers, its language, and yet still breathes with the same stubborn pulse. You listen. Their words carry the gravity of the past and the breath of the present. They speak of conquest and coexistence, of the delicate threads tying old worlds to new ones. Sometimes they speak your name, not literally, not aloud, but in the way they speak of objects that hold time, of tools that once served emperors and now rest quietly, respectfully, in the hands of those who remember. You are not used often, but you are never forgotten. Your presence is a quiet companion to these rituals of thought and meal. You sit near porcelain bowls that once held olives and cheese, beside cups still damp with rosewater tea. The meals are modest now, stews rich with lentils and lamb, bread torn by hand, fruit folded in honey. Yet in their simplicity, there is grace. You remember the opulence of empire, but this gentle domesticity, is its own form of richness. It is peace. It is presence. Seasons pass like the turning of a slow wheel. Winter comes with muffled silence and frost-laced pains. Fires crackle in hearths, and laughter feels warmer against the cold. You imagine snow falling over the domes and towers of the city, softening their outlines, covering the past in a delicate white hush. Then comes spring. The scent of orange blossoms drifts in, and bees dance around the open windows. The air is filled with birdsong and market shouts. The city unfurls again. Summer is slower. The heat presses against stone and skin alike. People move with lazy grace. Water splashes in fountains, cooling weary hands and faces. Evenings stretch long, the sky holding onto its light like a promise. Stories are told beneath awnings, laughter carried on the wind. And then autumn returns, its golden glow softening everything. Leaves crackle underfoot, and smoke winds upward from clay chimneys. You rest through it all, wrapped gently, handled carefully, not as a tool of utility anymore, but as something sacred, something remembered. Sometimes the official's hands lift you, not to use, but to simply hold. His thumb traces the curve of your handle. He closes his eyes. Perhaps he sees something when he holds you. Not visions, but feelings. A sense of depth, of presence, of weightless time folded into silver. He places you down again, always gently. And you listen once more to the quiet breathing of the room, the faint crackle of the oil lamp, the rustle of a page turned. The city itself is alive with a different kind of energy. Outside your sanctuary, the bazaars bustle. Colors swirl through narrow alleys. Textiles dyed in crimson and indigo. Silks that shimmer like water. The voices of traders rise and fall in practiced cadence. Spices scent the air. Cinnamon, coriander, sumac. Coins clink. Bargains are made. Stories are exchanged. You imagine yourself, once long ago, passed from one hand to another in that world. Perhaps you were purchased in a moment of beauty, perhaps given as a gift, perhaps stolen, lost, found again. Your journey has curved like the streets outside, unpredictable and winding. You think of all the hands that have held you, the ones that dipped you into stew, lifted you toward mouths hungry or reverent, the ones that washed you, polished you, hid you, forgot you, the ones that praised your shine, the ones that didn't notice. And yet here you are, still, whole. The city grows, changes, the empire stretches far, great buildings rise, casting shadows over the old ones. Ships dock in the harbors, bringing goods from distant lands. Maps are redrawn. Languages blend. And still, in this little room, time flows like a gentle river. You are part of a different kind of empire now, an empire of memory, of continuity. You listen to poetry read aloud, sometimes Rumi, sometimes Hafiz. The verses speak of longing and presence, of love and the divine, of the wind through the trees, of the silence between breaths. You understand none of it in words, but you understand in rhythm, in tone, in the spaces between. You have become something more than a spoon. You are a a keeper, a relic not of war, but of life lived deeply, of meals shared, of prayers whispered, of transitions witnessed. The official grows older, his steps slower, his voice deeper, softer, but he still touches you, still lifts you now and then, as if to remember not just the past, but something beyond it, a feeling, a thread that binds what was to what is. He does not speak to you, but his silences say enough. Outside, the sounds change, subtly. You hear new accents, foreign languages drifting in from ships arriving at the docks. You hear talk of telescopes and printing presses, of stars charted and medicines discovered, of revolutions, of reform. The world is turning faster now, but not here. Here, in this room, beneath the slow sway of an oil lamp, you remain in stillness, a breath drawn in and never quite released. The rhythm of the call to prayer continues, marking the passage of days with its soft, sonorous presence. 5 times, the city pauses, and each time, you are reminded of something timeless, something beyond language, beyond empires, beyond even memory. A stillness that watches and waits and continues. You think sometimes of those first days, fresh from the artisan's hands, your silver glimmering in the early morning light of Byzantium. You think of the laughter of cooks, the hiss of stew over flame, the weight of roasted lamb and honeyed fruits. You remember the elegance of emperors, the thrill of feasts, the echoes of choirs beneath domed ceilings. And you remember the silence after, the long sleep, the dust, the firelight flickering in quiet monasteries. And now this quiet, respectful waiting in a world both new and ancient. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are a spoon, yes, but you are also a story, an echo, a breath of what was, lingering softly in what still is. And as the city outside continues its long, slow song, you remain, wrapped, resting, remembering, waiting until the next chapter unfolds. Part 7. Rediscovery. The passage of time is both gentle and relentless. It flows like a slow river, carving new paths while wearing away the old. Centuries have slipped past, each leaving its mark, softening the sharp edges of memory. The city around you has changed. Empires have risen and fallen. Languages have shifted like tides, and faces in the streets have come and gone like fleeting shadows. Once, you were part of the daily rhythm of life. A tool, humble yet essential, held carefully in hands, busy with nourishment and care. Now, you rest in silence. For a long time, there was nothing but stillness and dust. The monastery where you once were placed, a quiet sanctuary tucked among olive groves and hills, has crumbled. Its stones, worn by rain and wind, lie scattered. Vines creep through cracks in the walls. Birds nest in forgotten corners. Yet beneath the earth, beneath the rubble, something remains, buried in the quiet soil, waiting. One day, in the 19th century, a team of explorers arrives. They come not with swords or banners, but with careful tools, their hands gentle and skilled. They are archaeologists, seekers of lost stories. Guided by maps and fragments of ancient texts, they dig deep into the earth. Their lanterns cast soft pools of light on stones and shards. The air smells of damp earth and aged stone. The sound of brushes softly sweeping soil, the clink of tools against rock. A student, young and eager, kneels down. With a small brush, they begin to clear away the dust. The soil parts slowly, like the pages of a forgotten book opening. And then, there it is. A glint, a flash of silver beneath the dirt. The student leans closer, careful not to scratch or break what lies beneath. The brush strokes reveal a small, smooth curve, a handle worn soft by hands long gone. They lift you gently. For a moment, the world holds its breath. You are lifted from your resting place, from the quiet earth into the warm light of day. The sun falls on your surface, casting delicate shadows across your form. You are simple, yet elegant. Your shape tells a story of craftsmanship and care, of hands who hammered and polished, of meals shared and memories made. The archaeologists examine you with awe. Carefully, they clean you. Soft cloths remove centuries of dust. Gentle water washes away the soil, every stroke respectful, reverent. They photograph you, capturing every angle, every curve, every scar. The faded engravings on your handle emerge from the shadows. The patterns speak of a time long past. They give you a number, a label, a place in a catalog. Your story recorded in ink and paper. But you are not placed on display. Not yet. Instead, you are carefully wrapped in soft cloth, nestled inside a wooden drawer in a museum in Thessaloniki. Here, you rest again. Safe, still, waiting. Around you, the museum holds many treasures, ancient coins and pottery, fragments of statues and jewelry, scrolls and manuscripts. Some displayed in bright glass cases, bathed in soft lights. Others kept away, in drawers like yours, quietly preserved. You lie in darkness, surrounded by the scent of old wood and fabric, the soft rustle of papers from nearby archives. Occasionally, footsteps echo in the halls. Voices murmur in distant rooms. But for the most part, you rest alone, numbered, cataloged, protected. Though you are not on display, you hold a silent power, a reminder of continuity, of lives once lived, of kitchens and banquets, of prayers and quiet meals. You remember the hands that once held you, the warmth of bodies gathered together, the quiet moments of stillness amid the bustle. You feel the passing of time, not as loss, but as transformation. The world shifts around you. The city grows and changes. New languages rise. New empires stretch their arms. Yet here, in your wooden drawer, you endure. Your story is waiting, waiting for someone to notice, to tell it once more, to bring the past into the present. You rest, patient and silent. The world outside moves fast, but here, time slows. The gentle rhythm of breath and stillness. You hold the memories of centuries, a small, humble spoon, a vessel of history, a keeper of stories. waiting quietly to be remembered. In the quiet darkness of the wooden drawer, time folds in on itself, stretching endlessly. Days pass, then weeks, then months and years. Yet you remain untouched, silent, a still presence amid the rhythm of the museum around you. Outside the drawer, the world continues to bustle. The museum, a sanctuary for history, holds thousands of stories, many displayed behind glass, sparkling under soft lights, drawing the gaze of curious visitors. But you rest in the shadows, quietly holding your own story in reserve. You are cataloged carefully in the museum's records, a number, a name, a brief note on your origin and design. Yet your true story waits, not yet told aloud. In this quiet place, surrounded by dust motes that drift like tiny stars in the filtered light, you begin to feel the slow awakening of memory. Not a loud or sudden stir, but a gentle unfurling. The faint echo of voices long past, the soft clink of dishes on stone tables, the rustle of fabric and the murmur of prayers. The careful hands of monks laying out a meal. You remember the monastery, the sun streaming through stained glass windows, painting colors on the stone floor. The cool shadowed corners where monks paused in prayer. The simple meals shared in quiet fellowship. You were once part of that calm, that stillness, carrying nourishment and comfort. In these moments, the spoon is not merely an object of metal and shape. It is a vessel of memory, a keeper of human connection. You recall the seasons passing outside the monastery walls. Spring with its blooms and soft breezes. Summer's warm, golden light. Autumn's crisp chill. The turning leaves like scattered flames. Winter's hush. Snow blanketing the hills in silent white. And through it all, you rested nearby, holding stories in your quiet form. Sometimes, a museum staff member opens your drawer. A soft click of the lock, a gentle rustle of cloth. They inspect the items within, checking condition, dusting surfaces, making sure each piece is preserved. You feel their careful touch, the reverence in their movements. Though they do not yet place you on display, you are not forgotten. They speak quietly of your craftsmanship, your origins, an elegant design, simple and effective. A piece that speaks to everyday life, to the intimate moments of nourishment and care. The staff members talk about the stories that artifacts like you tell, stories of ordinary lives woven into the grand tapestry of history. You imagine the conversations among visitors who wander the museum halls. Some pass by the drawer that holds you, unaware of the treasure within. Others stop before glass cases filled with glittering gold and jewel-encrusted relics, admiring the grandeur of empires long gone. But you are humble, quiet, not adorned with precious stones. Yet in your simplicity lies a profound beauty. You are a witness to centuries, to moments both grand and small, to human hands that crafted, used, and treasured you. One day, a scholar arrives, their eyes keen with curiosity. They seek not only the treasures on display, but also the stories hidden away, the items cataloged in drawers and storerooms. They open your drawer with gentle hands, lift you carefully, examining your shape, your weight, your worn edges. The scholar smiles softly, understanding the silent story you carry. They note your markings, the faded details etched long ago. They begin to research, tracing your journey from the monastery ruins to this quiet room, piecing together fragments of history, your place in the lives of those who came before. The scholar writes about you, telling the world your story, your journey from the kitchens of Byzantium through the Ottoman years to your resting place in Thessaloniki. Slowly, your story begins to unfold beyond the wooden drawer, beyond the quiet museum room. You become a bridge across time, a reminder that history is not only found in grand monuments and famous battles, but also in the small, everyday things, the objects that held the meals of ordinary people, the tools that passed from hand to hand, the vessels of human connection. In this new chapter, your journey is not yet over. Though you rest quietly for now, your story is being told. Whispers of your past echo softly in the halls. A gentle reminder that even the simplest objects carry the weight of history, and that every moment, no matter how small, is part of the vast, unfolding story of humanity. You remain a humble spoon, silent, still, but no longer forgotten, waiting for the day when you will be held once again, seen, remembered, cherished. Final thoughts. As the final chapter of your long journey unfolds, a profound calm settles over you, like the soft embrace of twilight after a day full of quiet moments. You have traveled through centuries, through hands that once held you with care, through kitchens alive with the warmth of cooking fires, through silent prayers whispered in the shadows of a monastery, through the clangor and stillness of empires rising and falling. Now you rest once again, in stillness, in peace, in quiet reverence for all that has been. Imagine the weight of time melting away, layer by layer, as if the centuries fold gently around you like a soft, comforting blanket. Each era you have witnessed settles down beside you, like friends returning home, and the world becomes a place of soft shadows and whispered stories. The hard edges of history blur into something gentler, something more human and tender. Close your eyes, or simply imagine closing them, and feel the slow rhythm of breath that connects all things. The slow rise and fall, the endless ebb and flow that mirrors the passage of days and nights, of seasons turning with quiet grace. The steady pulse of life continues, even here in the stillness. You are no longer just a spoon, no longer simply an object of metal and shape. You are a vessel, a keeper of memories, a silent witness to the countless moments that make up a life. Picture the hands that first held you, rough with work or soft with care, moving with purpose and tenderness. Imagine the gentle clinking sound as you were placed beside a bowl, the warmth of stew or broth cradled within your curved bowl. Feel the shimmer of candlelight flickering softly on your surface, casting dancing shadows in a dimly lit kitchen. You were part of lives both ordinary and extraordinary, a tool of comfort in times of hardship, a symbol of community in moments shared at the table. The hands that lifted you sought nourishment, not only of the body, but of the soul. Food shared with loved ones, laughter mingling with stories told under soft lamplight, silent prayers said before meals, hopes and dreams carried quietly on the breath of those gathered. The monastery's quiet sanctuary comes alive again in your memory. Feel the cool stone beneath you as monks move silently through the halls, their robes whispering like the wind. Hear the faint murmur of chants drifting through arched windows, the soft patter of footsteps on worn stone floors, the flicker of oil lamps casting long shadows on ancient walls, the sense of calm that settled over everything as the monks broke bread in fellowship and prayer. Outside, the seasons turned with patient grace. Spring's soft blossoms, delicate and fragrant, brushing the air with life and color. Summer's golden light pouring through olive groves, warming the earth and the hearts of those who live beneath its rays. Autumn's cool breath, turning leaves to flames of red and gold, whispering change in the air. Winter's hush, the stillness of snow, blanketing the world in white silence. You rested through all of it, patient, steady, a silent keeper of moments now past. Centuries passed, and the world beyond the monastery's walls changed and grew. Empires rose and fell. The language of power shifted. New rulers claimed lands. New stories were written. And yet, in a quiet room far away, you waited. In the museum drawer, lined with soft cloth, you lay hidden among other relics, each one holding its own secret story. Dust motes danced lazily in the sunlight, filtering through tall windows, drifting like tiny stars suspended in time. The scent of old wood and parchment filled the air. You rested there, safe and still, while the hum of the outside world pulsed faintly beyond the walls. Sometimes, gentle hands would open your drawer. Museum staff, with quiet reverence, would lift you carefully, their touch respectful and light. They cleaned your surface, removing the layers of dust and time with soft cloths, revealing the subtle curves and patina that told your story. They admired your simplicity and elegance, marveling at how a small object like you could carry so much history. These moments were brief but meaningful, like whispered acknowledgments from those who understood that every artifact is a bridge to the past. You felt their curiosity, their awe, their desire to preserve and honor. Then, one day, a scholar arrived, their eyes sharp with knowledge, their heart full of wonder. They opened your drawer with deliberate care, holding you up to the light and tracing the worn edges with their fingers. In their gaze, you saw respect. In their mind, the beginnings of a story ready to be told anew. The scholar began to piece together the fragments of your journey, linking you to the kitchens of Byzantine palaces, to the monks who sought peace and prayer, to the families who gathered for meals and celebrations, to the long years buried beneath earth and rubble. Your story grew richer with every detail uncovered. no longer just a spoon, but a symbol of human connection across time. A reminder that history is not only found in grand monuments or the deeds of kings, but also in the small, everyday things. The objects that carried the lives of ordinary people, the vessels of comfort and sustenance, the keepers of memory. And so, your story was written again, on pages and screens, in books and lectures, in the quiet conversations of those who loved to listen to the past. You became a bridge, a link between centuries, between people long gone and those who come after. A small but vital thread in the vast tapestry of human history. As this final chapter closes, feel the gentle release of time. The long journey you have traveled is not over. It lives on in the minds and hearts of those who remember. The hands that first held you, the meals shared in warmth, the silent prayers offered in quiet rooms, all of these moments live on. You rest now in calmness, safe, cherished, remembered. Let yourself sink into that stillness, the soft breath of history settling around you like a lullaby, the slow, steady rhythm of time that carries all things gently forward. Breathe in that peace. Feel the soothing weight of rest. Know that your journey, though humble, is infinite. You are part of something greater, a continuous story of life, connection, and memory. And as the light fades softly around you, you drift into a gentle sleep, a peaceful rest after a long day. The world outside continues to turn, but here, in this moment, all is quiet, all is well. Rest now, sleep well, and know you are remembered.